Hello and welcome to Andrew Broussard Watercolors. I'm jumping into a second painting which is essentially going to be similar to the one I filmed earlier, exploring probably some different colors and different tonal values. So in front of me I have probably about a 3x5 piece of paper. This is the New York Central 100% cotton hot press. I made a different mixture of my gum arabic to coat the paper, and I did 2 coats. So see how that affects everything. And I am going to jump into it with some Naples yellow. Pull. The pan looks a little dirty, but it'll be fine. So working out of pans and using some different brushes and application. Hey, Percy Poo. My goal today is if Percy the cat tries to sleep at all, I'm going to wake her up because she kept me up all night wanting attention. Right now she's on the table next to me, stabbing her claws into my elbow, trying to get attention. Okay, so anyway, using this small squirrel mop, cheap, probably synthetic. That on there. Let's grab some Prussian blue. So we couldn't get like kind of a green from this mix. We'll see how we like that. As usual, you're always welcome to follow along and sign your own name with anything that I do, or that you do when you follow along. You have my express permission to sell it. I want you guys to have fun and have money for art supplies. If you want to support this channel, I have the Patreon linked down below. Also some other things, some paintings and books. If there's anything you like, that helps as well. And I use that to buy more art supplies. All right, I'm grabbing some raw sienna. See how high I want to bring up the tree line, probably about there. We're gonna grab Van Dyke Brown, has been my go-to lately for the dark. I have this small round. I'm looking for the horizon line. I talked about different linear perspectives in the previous video. We're just kind of putting this in place to stop the background plane essentially. Let's go a little bit more pronounced. Okay. Let's lift a little bit out right here. Put a little brightest white right above that horizon line. Okay. I'm going to look for my closer picture plane objects. So that will be where my bigger trees will come up. I can start getting the ideas of them. We'd started them differently in the previous video. This is the same Van Dyke Brown. That opening's too much right there, right dead center. That might have worked. Got a bigger tree here. I'll have it come a little bit closer. I'm just kind of sketching in ideas with this small round brush. I think this is, yeah, 0. And I think I would like maybe the idea of a little marshy water right here. Might be worth just going in and lifting and then experimenting from there. Okay. Now, this water, we can get some sky color into it. That brush is dirty. So some Naples yellow. Too much was too dirty. That's another thing with playing with pans now, just trying to figure out all those different aspects, especially since with the Hake brush paintings, I barely wash the brush. Okay. This guy's shadow would come down. And I'm going to prepare for darkening that space between land and water. Since it's lit from behind, that whole part of grass and field that comes up would be dark. But if you watch the previous video, you'll see how the Van Dyke brown dries. Now, there's quite a tonal shift, but it's been working with me for just sketching stuff in. I'm gonna grab the fan brush. We're still wet and wet, but let's get some textural ideas taking place. And see how we can use it to our benefit. I think I'll blow dry off now. So I'm gonna pause the camera. This paper is really wanting to buckle, but it's a pad, so it can't. It's lifted a little bit here and here. Okay, that being said, we've talked about this part of the field in the last video, so I'm going to leave that blank for now. We're going to take a different approach to getting to that point. But I'm going to grab some Perylene green, and I'm looking for my darks for these trees. And the tree line. I want to blend my shadow. I've talked about that in the previous video, bringing the shadows of two different objects kind of blending into the other. Of course, we can use the back of the brush to put some paint around if we want to get ideas of trunks. I'm doing this very gently. I'm trying not to mar the paper. If I was to mar it, like scraping in the larger Hake brush paintings, I would get some backfills in different lines, and I'm trying to avoid those right now. Did I do that? We'll see if I can fix it. Must have done when I was switching it. My allergies have been bad, so I've been wearing my glasses for the past few days. I have a little bit of trouble with depth perception with the glasses on. And that's this tree line right here, shadow. It's going to extend. Okay. I'll grab this finer, thinner brush. Start getting the water ideas in. One of the things I've been struggling with this size is bringing in these kind of lines and aspects that would be just extra grass growth that's taking place through this kind of more shallower puddle. This would be the great place for maybe a path. Let's just put that in now. path comes around and passes behind. I think I'm going to grab the white gouache now. Just having to reconstitute it. And I'm going to put this Naples yellow in it. And let's see if we get the creaminess we want. And I'm looking where we can see that background field between them. Okay. Since we want to go further, this is kind of that olive green. This fella's shadow would extend. Just gonna grab some Perylene green for right now. I think now we're at a point where dry off is worth it. I can, before I do that, grab a small brush, see if I can lift that up. Not the best looking, but just working to try to fix that spot. And I can, while I'm at it, pull a bit whiter out of here. I think blow dryer is now in session. Now, I picked up this small flat brush. Not quite sure what I want to use it for, but I have been kind of using it like an oil painting brush and taking pigment and putting it in this fashion. This is alizarin crimson, the permanent version. And bring those shadows down here. That's very, very strong, but we'll see what we can do. Put it in to accent some of these shadows. Just kind of letting it blend together where we don't see where one thing ends and the other thing begins. And of course we can take darker colors. This is just the Van Dyke. And we can pass that over on top as well. Experiment with black, burnt umber. Play around with those colors and see. Ultramarine. If we can get some marks and confusion in there. Let's just go straight black. See how that affects things. Little vertical strokes. See how that reads as grass. And I'll bring it over into this walkway or field. And I'm just grabbing this small brush to make it easy. We can leave that faded effect around the edges, or we can grab gamboge, or probably like a Hansa yellow or something. Look for the greener aspects catching light. And that right there is something I've been exploring over that darker tree as we come forward. So just a lot of experimenting, and I hope some of it is beneficial to y'all. I think I want to take that yellow. That's what I want to go with. Put a little bit in that shadow back there. Now might be a time to see if we can scrub out a little bit of that mark. Okay, I'm going to pause for a dry off. Okay, and so we're about 17 minutes in. Let's grab some burnt umber. I want to see how I can push the darks. Burnt umber. And we can grab some ultramarine blue and try to get that to mix right onto the palette with the previous, right onto the painting. Looking for the shadow that would pass amongst the objects. Look for the shadow down here. Percy, I know you're not going to try to go to sleep right next to me. I'm going to wake you up like you did me all last night. Okay, let's... a little bit of ideas. Curious with straight black. All right, I'm going to hit it with the blow dryer. All right, so the darks are definitely at an interesting point right now. And I want to start kind of tying things together. So this is a small round brush. It's like 10 or 16/0. And I want to add interest amongst these trees, tree branches, tree trunks. And that kind of helps tie things together a little bit more. So let's go back to our white. I think I'm just going to put out a little bit of fresh white because that one's pretty muddy. I want to really see pushing the contrast. So I'm going to go gamboge. So that's that distant field behind our objects. Try not to make it too wide, vertically wide, too tall. And I probably overdo it with these little bird holes or sky holes, but I do like the look. Then that helps make these guys look even darker. I'm going to bring this color forward a little bit. Getting some interesting dry brush effects. And sometimes with the little reflections, you can get interesting effects there by bringing them down into that water. I'm really not too worried about them lining up perfectly or anything like that. I could even bring this out here. I mean, honestly, it wouldn't really reflect in the, I don't think it would reflect in the water. But kind of just looks right. And of course, we can experiment with that with the sky as well. One thing that I wanted to experiment with that I haven't done, which I'll try right now, is once I get my darks in those trees, if I can get a little bit of green back in them. So this is that olive green. One interesting thing that just hit my mind was the greens of the tree probably wouldn't really blend into the other greens, like as a path, but the darks lead in as a path. So having those same shadows, but then having that difference there helps separate. I believe that's the case with what's going on. You can bring this out a little bit. Of course, we can bring some green along this path in this field. That's interesting. Okay, pause for dry off. Since we have time, and we are about 23 minutes in, I think is what it said, I'll grab some white gouache just so I can show you something that I mentioned in the other video but didn't do. We can take light washes of gouache or heavier ones and use it to push things back in the picture plane and create more atmospheric effects. And you might have liked the sky to begin with and not wanted to do this, and that's fine. But you know, all these are in the name of experimentation and seeing what happens. Like letting that air catch onto the edges of the paint, the trees. You bring it down as far as you want, just experiment with that. And once again, you can experiment over here. See if you get a layer that kind of gives you the top sheen surface of water. Let's pause, dry off. All right, not super dry, but I wanted to just try to clean this off and grab a little bit of maybe perylene green. See if we can darken areas that would be in the shadow of the trees. And also see if we can find some little grass elements. Coming up and below. Okay. Then another interesting thing is if you take a brush that can get all crazy, and oddly enough the number 1 rigger is good for this, and just trying to get some pigment on it. And if you let it kind of just dance around and fall and break apart, and you get really interesting field elements that I can't tell you what they are, but they start looking like something. They just start seeming natural. Maybe clumps of grass that were missed if something was eating there, or ridges for shadows, or even just little tree trunks and branches falling down. Just gives some interesting texture. So I think we're done. I'm going to pull the tape off, and we'll see what it looks like. All right, if you choose to use tape, whenever you pull it away, pull away from the painting itself, so that if it does tear, it's going to tear just the paper around it and not the painting. You can also take the masking tape and kind of put it on your pant leg, just to kind of reduce some of the tackiness if you have trouble with it and it's pulling a lot of paper off. I know some people use the frog tape, but that's expensive. I don't really bother with tape too much except for just cropping down. So on that, hope you enjoyed. Please like, subscribe, follow, and I will be back soon with more full-length videos. Thank you.